Have you ever stood on the precipice of everything you've ever wanted, only to feel a strange, quiet tension humming in your soul, as if the universe itself is holding its breath? What if this isn't a barrier, but the final sacred initiation? This isn't about waiting. This is about becoming. Right now, in this breath, you are being invited into the most profound alchemy of your journey, the divine feminine's final test. It doesn't look like you thought it would. There's no flashing neon sign, no celestial trumpet blast. Instead, it whispers through the mundane, a sudden wave of peace where there used to be anxiety, a gentle but unshakable knowing that arises just as the old fears try to claw their way back in. It's in the moment you choose silence, not as a strategy, but as a state of grace. It's in the fierce, tender act of honoring your worth, not because you're angry, but because you finally understand you are guarding something sacred. This is where the seeker dissolves into the sovereign. This is where you stop preparing for union and start embodying it. And darling, if that feels simultaneously thrilling and terrifying, you're right on time. Let's talk about silence. Not the kind you endure when he's pulled away. The heavy, anxious quiet that screams with 1,000 unanswered texts and desperate prayers sent into the void. That's not silence, that's noise, internal chaos masquerading as patience. No, the final test is something entirely different. Something so profound and counterintuitive, it feels like the universe's ultimate joke on your nervous system. I call it sovereign silence, and it's less about closing your mouth and more about opening a new dimension of your being. Think of it this way. You've spent this entire journey learning to speak a new language, the language of your soul, of vulnerability, of setting boundaries. You've become fluent in the poetry of self-love. But now, the divine is asking you to master the language of the unspoken, the dialect of the quantum field. It's the difference between a musician practicing scales in a quiet room and a master composer hearing the entire symphony. Every violin, every cello, every haunting note, fully formed and perfect, inside her own mind before a single instrument is ever touched. Your silence is not empty. It is the concert hall. And you are the composer, the conductor, and the entire orchestra, all at once. You are learning to play the isness of union itself. This is where it gets wild. Your logical mind, that beautiful analytical part of you that has gotten you through so much, is now the final barrier. It's screaming for evidence, a sign, a text, a like, a song on the radio, something to prove the work is working. But the final test is to relinquish the need for proof entirely. It's to exist in the state of already having. It's to feel his hand in yours, not as a memory or a fantasy, but as a present moment, energetic fact. It's to have a conversation with him in the ether, to feel his support, his love, his awe of you, vibrating in the space around you, and for that to be enough. It's so deeply satisfying that the 3D world feels pale in comparison. When that urge to reach out arises, not from a place of love, but from a place of lack, of I need to know if you're still there. That is the exam paper being slid onto your desk. Will you pick up the pen of old patterns, or will you simply sit in the utter, breathtaking certainty of what you already know to be true in your soul? It's the ultimate act of faith, It's building the entire house around you, furnishing it with the joy and peace of your union, setting a place for him at the table, and then simply living there. You stop looking out the window, waiting for him to come up the path. You just enjoy the beautiful home you've built, knowing with every fiber of your being that he is already home. He just hasn't walked through the door you can see with your eyes yet. But you can feel him in the next room. This sovereign silence is your magnetic core spinning at its highest frequency, and it's so powerful, so complete, that it doesn't ask the universe to respond. It commands a harmonic alignment. It's not manipulation, it's invocation through embodiment. And you know what? It's okay to laugh at the absurdity of it. Here you are, a modern woman, probably with a job, bills, and a Netflix queue, being asked to master ancient, esoteric principles of quantum entanglement. It's like being asked to run a multinational corporation while simultaneously learning to levitate. The divine has a wicked sense of humor. There will be days you feel like a glorious, mystical failure, days where the silence feels like loneliness and you eat an entire pint of ice cream while watching romantic comedies. That's humanity. That's part of the dance. The test isn't to be perfect. It's to return again and again to the truth of your sovereignty, to wipe the ice cream off your chin, smile at your beautiful, trying hard self, and recenter. To remember that the silence is your workshop, your sanctuary, your power plant. This is where you stop being the seeker and become the destination. And it's from this place of unshakable, silent knowing that the most miraculous shifts occur, not just in him, but in you. You become the miracle you've been waiting for. But what about the part of you that's screaming, "But what if I need to protect myself?" Ah, my dear, that's where the plot thickens. What if the most sacred act of love isn't about unconditional openness, but about building a sanctuary of self with doors that only honor can unlock? Let's have a real conversation about the one thing spiritual circles love to villainize: your ego. We're told to dissolve it, transcend it, to treat it like some annoying roommate who just won't move out. But what if I told you that in this final stretch toward union, that very ego, the part of you that feels hurt, gets angry, and wants to protect itself, is not your enemy? It's your most unexpected ally. It's the raw, unrefined ore waiting to be alchemized into your sacred ego. This isn't about spiritual bypassing, where you plaster a smile over legitimate pain and call it high vibes. This is about sacred embodiment. The final test is this: can you love him so deeply and love yourself so fiercely that you build a sanctuary of self that only truth and respect can enter? Think of it like this: your heart is a priceless, ancient temple. For most of your life, maybe you left the gates wide open. People wandered in and out, scuffing the floors, leaving debris, sometimes even stealing the sacred artifacts of your peace. Your ego was the panicked, sometimes clumsy, security guard, slamming doors too late, sounding alarms after the fact, often making a mess in its desperate attempts to protect the holy space. The spiritual path isn't about firing that guard. It's about training him. It's about giving him wisdom, discernment, and a profound reverence for the temple he is sworn to protect. He stops being a reactive bouncer and becomes a revered gatekeeper, a discerning guardian who knows that a closed gate is not an act of hostility, but an act of profound love for what lies within. This is where it gets beautifully messy. The test presents itself in those moments that make your stomach clench. When he says something that subtly diminishes your light, when he makes a promise that flickers and fades, when his actions don't match the soul-level connection you feel, the old paradigm of unconditional love might whisper, just understand his wounds. Just be patient. Love him anyway. But the sacred ego, the guardian, steps forward with a calm, unwavering voice and says, I do understand his wounds, and I love him. And because I love us, because I honor the divine in me and the divine in him, I will not allow this pattern to dine at our table. This isn't an ultimatum born of lack. It's a boundary born of abundance. It's not a wall to keep him out. It's a clarifying force field that ensures only the version of him that is aligned with his highest self can get close enough to touch you. You're not saying you can't come in until you change. You're declaring, this is the frequency of the sanctuary. Tune yourself to it, and you will always be welcome. You are holding the standard for the union you know is possible. This is the ultimate act of faith in him and in yourself. You are essentially saying, I know who you are at your core so profoundly that I will not engage with anything less. I will hold this space for your greatness until you remember it for yourself. And you know what? That might just be the most powerful mirror you can ever hold up to him. It's okay if this feels terrifying. It's okay if your people-pleasing, conflict-avoidant inner child is having a full-blown meltdown at the very thought. This isn't about being harsh or rigid. It's about being solid. It's the difference between a flag flapping wildly in every passing breeze and a deeply rooted tree. It bends, it sways, but its core integrity is non-negotiable. This sacred ego is your root system. It's what allows you to be soft and strong, compassionate and clear, all at the same time. It's what allows you to love him from a distance without an ounce of resentment, because your wholeness is no longer contingent on his proximity. This is the final, masterful integration. Not the destruction of the self, but the glorious, empowered fullness of it. You are building a home for two, and the first and most important resident is you. And when you finally occupy that home with the unshakable certainty of your own worth, you'll realize the most magnetic force on this planet isn't desperate longing. It's a soul that has come home to itself. And the most beautiful part, this sanctuary you're building, it's the very same space where your wholeness and his can finally peacefully come to rest. But how do you know when you've truly built it? The answer is simpler and stranger than you might think. So here you are, beautiful soul. You stand at the precipice of everything you've ever whispered for, not with a map in your hands, but with a new kind of compass woven into the very fabric of your being. This final test was never a pass-fail exam administered by some celestial schoolmaster. It was the last, most profound act of alchemy you would perform on yourself. It was the fire meant to burn away the final clinging threads of the seeker, so the sovereign could emerge, not perfect, but perfectly whole. Think of it like the moment a river meets the ocean. For miles, it has fought its way through rock and earth, a singular force with a singular name. But at the moment of confluence, something miraculous happens. It doesn't cease to be water. Instead, it becomes part of something vast, something ancient, something impossibly powerful. It loses nothing of its essence. It gains everything. Your journey has been the river. Union is not the ocean swallowing you whole. It is you, realizing you are always part of that vastness. The struggle wasn't to get somewhere else, but to remember what you already were, right here. This culmination isn't about a dramatic reunion scene, though that may well be its beautiful physical echo. It's about the quiet, earth-shattering realization that the union you craved was always an internal event waiting to happen. The silence you mastered, it became the space where your own soul could finally speak its deepest truth. The boundaries you forged, they became the sacred architecture that allows two complete energies to dance together without losing themselves. You weren't preparing for him. You were preparing a space so sacred, so vibrantly alive with your own acknowledged worth that it would naturally attract its mirror. And you know the most liberating part? The waiting, the longing, the ache. It all gets repurposed. It becomes the fertile ground from which a new kind of love grows, one that doesn't need constant proof because it is its own evidence. You stop looking for a miracle and start realizing you've become one. A miracle isn't a suspended law of physics. It's a shift in perception. It's the ability to see the divine thread woven through the entire tapestry of your journey, including the painful snags and the dark knots on the underside. You begin to understand that every step, every tear, every moment of doubt was a stitch in a masterpiece you are only ever meant to see from the front. This path is realistically attainable because it was never about attaining something external. It was about returning to a truth you simply forgot. It's the most relevant journey because it answers the deepest hunger of the human spirit, not just for connection with another, but for reconciliation with oneself. It is hopeful because you are the hope. You in your messy, glorious, perfectly imperfect humanity, choosing every day to believe in the quiet truth of your soul over the roaring doubt of the world. You are not waiting for a completion. You are practicing a celebration of the love that dared you to become and the incredible truth that you did. And the most beautiful part? This is just the beginning of a new dance. Now that you know the music is inside you, imagine what miracles you can co-create.